time is it? What time is it? What time is it?
Welcome to Talkin' About Sports, the Carolina's #1 podcast. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with an all-star panel as always. Back from a whirlwind tour of Europe, Scandinavia, and the subcontinent via San Diego, where you covered San Diego State, Boise State for CBS Sports and Fox Sports, John Tobias, JT. And from the University of Arkansas, Navy veteran, thank you for your service. Ultra Motorsports NASCAR Pit Crew champion, the owner of William Wilson Clothing. By the way, voted a Critics' Choice Consumer Culture Best of Charlotte 2017, best place to get suited up. William Wilson.
Whoa, man, that's what's up.
I appreciate it, man.
And the founder of the Clother Classic, Celebrity Golf Classic, to benefit domestic violence awareness. So glad.
I was like, I need to have my own show.
You do need to have your own show. We can arrange that, and I'm available for a nominal fee. Guys, lots going on in the sports world. The NBA season has started. San Antonio looked good last night. The Hornets did not look good against the Detroit Pistons. They have a home opener against the Atlanta Hawks. Boston, bad news for Gordon Hayward. Broken or dislocated ankle, broken tibia for Gordon Hayward.
Man, that thing was a mess.
Aaron Rodgers with a broken collarbone could be out for the year. Our guy from North Carolina A&T, Tariq Cohen, threw a touchdown pass of all things. I really like him. But your guy, what's his name, Kareem Hunt,
yes.
the Kansas City guy you told us about?
We lost to my Steelers, though, so, I mean, I'll take that. I'll take that. But I did say that from day one about Kareem
You were the first
Hunt,
guy that probably enlightened the world about this guy. Of course, I mean, there's a lot of NFL guys who knew about it.
Right.
Guys in North Carolina A&T knew about it.
Well, at least you're giving me my props.
Well, I'm giving it to you, man.
All right.
I mean, and Will, are you switching to the Navy since Arkansas is not doing so well?
Oh, no, I mean, I'm always pull for Navy because I'm a Navy man.
Right.
But I'm a Razorback till I die. Win or lose, I'm a hog. Woo pig suey.
Brett Bielema looks like a hog these days. Of course, he has for a while.
No, he kind of looks like the trough right
He's
now.
eating high on the hog, it seems like, these days.
Yeah, man. But you know, we've discussed, at length my thoughts towards that hire in the first place and where it's going now. And the program hasn't progressed, and it seems to be going backwards now. To lose the game is one thing. We're getting humiliated and embarrassed. As no SEC school should ever be scheduled as anyone's homecoming. Ever.
I think I sent a little text message to you that said, how in the world is Arkansas somebody's homecoming?
Exactly. That's the ultimate disrespect when you schedule an SEC school.
Did they think they were getting Arkansas State or something?
They could have got like any directional school in Alabama, like anything. But not only did they schedule us for it, they treated us, they scored on us like we were a directional school from Alabama.
I think they were throwing in the fourth quarter.
That's pretty bad.
The thing is, those guys who played Arkansas are coached to win and advance the ball. So, yeah. I mean, you can't hold the guys back. But
yeah, I mean, you look at it, the last 2 or 3 times we played Alabama under Bielema, we were leading going into the fourth quarter, and we just couldn't close out. That was not the case at all. We were never in that game until right before kickoff.
Well, your guy, Jerry Jones, owner of your Dallas Cowboys, isn't an Arkansas alum. How long is he going to sit back and watch this humiliation as you describe it?
Not long. I don't see his time in Arkansas being for long. I have no inside scoop or information. But again, losing is one thing, being embarrassed is another, and this is his 5th year. So these are all his guys.
All right, Will, in addition to the Arkansas's woes, South Carolina, I think, has been up and down, but they did beat Tennessee. So you said that anyone in the phone book could be a candidate to replace Butch Jones at Tennessee. Will Muschamp may have staved off or got a stay of execution in Columbia. I'm not so sure he's the right guy. I think they'd switch Columbia with you.
Well, I mean, they did beat Tennessee, and they beat, again.
I'm not down on Butch Jones, by the way.
Right.
But admit the well may be poisoned.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Tennessee, and they beat my Razorbacks. I mean, they beat them both handily.
Beat NC State.
Yeah, they may be turning the corner. The beautiful thing about the SEC is you see the best that everyone has to offer on a week-to-week basis. The worst thing about the SEC is we're quick to pull triggers. You may get somewhere if you haven't improved that program in 2 years, or at least maintain, but at least you have to improve. They're going to fire you, or you could be a Mark Richt who's winning 8-9 games a season, and they'll pull you.
Well, I hear you.
So that's the downside of the SEC. I mean, maybe he's finally getting his program together, and they're getting some of those wins. Those guys get some confidence, get that big mo behind them. South Carolina may do a little something.
All right, well, not only that, but we've got a special guest, Mark Kelso, former Buffalo Bill and the general manager of JTG Doherty Racing. He's going to talk some NFL football and NASCAR. It is the playoffs. This is Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
We're talking about sports on
We're talking about sports at ADS. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports.
Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with William Wilson, John Tobias, and now joining us via our special guest line is Mark Kelso, former Buffalo Bill and a member of the William and Mary tribe. We got to thank, and now the general manager of JTG Doherty Racing. Mark, glad to have you on board here. Lots of stuff going on in the NFL. You also do some work with the Buffalo Bills still to this day. Carolina played Buffalo here week 2, and now we noticed that the Panthers saw their star linebacker Luke Keuckly go down with into the concussion protocol. You were, and I was telling William Wilson here earlier that how you were way ahead of your time. You wore a special attachment to your helmet back in the 80s and early 90s, and you were very much an advocate and for pushing the awareness for concussions. Tell us what's your thoughts initially when you saw or read about the Luke Keuckly situation.
Yeah, certainly very discouraging for him and the Panther organization, because he's a fabulous player and a great representative of the league and of the organization. So I always hate to see any player go down, again, particularly one that's so highly respected and regarded throughout the league. But he has had some issues, and I know he's taken some precautionary measures to try to alleviate that situation or create a better, safer playing situation. I don't think he's done some of the things that I was fortunate enough to be able to be afforded with our medical staff and athletic training staff in Buffalo. And yes, it's kind of well documented that I wore an extra pad on top of my helmet that helped to mitigate those forces. And I really feel like the medical staff in Buffalo was at the cutting edge of re-entry to play protocol. And now it's kind of reticent at all levels of play, from the youth level all the way through the professional level, and it's an important component of playing the game safer, and I really believe that there's been a lot of healthy initiatives that have been put forth that have helped make the game safer. I really believe it's a fabulous game. I think you can learn character traits on the football field that are difficult to learn in other situations and in other athletic pursuits, although those other athletic pursuits are very healthy as well. But there's some great things you can learn, so I want to see the game be able to be played safely and successfully at the same time.
Do you see any advancement from the days that you played, and have you contributed to some of the advancements from your own playing days to maybe the helmet technology, the protocol itself, and maybe is there some parallels between NASCAR with the helmets? William and I were talking about people like Steve Park, Jerry Nadeau, and even Dale Earnhardt Jr. Have suffered concussions in NASCAR.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of parallels, particularly with helmet technology. And of course, Bill Simpson had developed a football helmet as well that utilizes some of the NASCAR technology in regards to Simpson restraints. But there's a lot of similarities. There's no question about that. And the biggest difference is when there's an accident in NASCAR. I mean, that's a one-time. They would call it a catastrophic event for a helmet, because when you're involved in a really serious accident, you're probably going to not use that helmet anymore, because it's got beaded polypropylene on the inside, which is going to compress, which is going to provide a safer situation for the driver in the event of an accident. But it's gonna fail the system, and that's exactly what should happen to provide the best protection against head injury. And certainly things have got a lot better in NASCAR with soft walls, Simpson restraints, which help to mitigate those acceleration forces that occur when there's an accident. The way that the bodies of the cars, the way that those crush panels that do exactly what they're supposed to do, they crush, and when they crush, that mitigates the energy that's available to cause harm to the driver. So that becomes a much safer situation. And I've been around the sport here at JTG Doherty Racing for its entire existence, but in a full-time capacity for the last 3 years, and I can tell you I've seen some horrific wrecks on the racetrack, but I've seen everybody walk away from those wrecks because of the safety initiatives that have been initiated by NASCAR and by the drivers. From a football perspective, it's the same thing. As far as mitigating force, you want the energy to do as much work as it possibly can do before it gets to your head, and then there's less energy to do damage to your head. And they've made a lot of really, really good measures from helmet technology to field technology, the way that they've tried to improve the tackling of the game and the way the game is taught from a skill development perspective, the re-entry to play protocol, the way that they take the injuries from the point of that the injury occurred and work that athlete back to re-entry to activity and then re-entry to play so that they're completely healed before they are exposed to another type of event, which could be a really serious situation had they not been healed completely. But I've been around it a long time. I do think that there's been a lot of really positive things that have happened in regards to, again, playing the game safely and successfully. At the same time, there's still a lot of work to be done and a lot of technology to be developed, but I do think there's been a lot that's been accomplished to this point.
Hey, Mark, this is John Tobias, the statistician of the show. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to come on. One question I want to ask you specifically related to Luke Keuckly. He has had, with the latest concussion that happened last Thursday against the Eagles, he now has 3 documented concussions in the last 3 seasons. Not to project, but from a foresight standpoint, how can that affect him short-term as well as long-term after having 3 documented concussions in the last 3 seasons?
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't be qualified to make that assessment. I mean, you need the medical professionals who are around and diagnosing and interacting with Luke on a daily basis. I mean, they're the ones that are going to have to make that assessment. I mean, there are different levels of a concussion, and we kind of throw it all into one blanket generalization and say he suffered a concussion. Well, you suffer some cognitive impairment or some symptom of a concussion. I mean, there's still dispute over exactly what a concussion is, but if you have some type of cognitive episode or neurological impairment, that would be indicative of the fact that there was some type of concussive event that occurred. But obviously in his situation, he's had some. He missed an extended period of time last year because of it. So they're gonna I would think tread very, very carefully with this situation, because you certainly the most serious situation is that he re-enters the playing field and he's not completely healed, and he has another injury which could compound the seriousness of the future injury. So you got to make sure he's completely healthy. There's a much more proactive approach to re-entry to play protocol than existed when I played. It was they wanted you to rest for a significant period of time, and then you began the re-entry to play procedure. Here, a lot of medical professionals, some of which I know very well, Dr. Letty, who runs the concussion clinic at the University of Buffalo, they really believe in oxygen infusement to the brain as close as they can to the episode. So within probably a 12 or 15-hour period of time, if they can conduct activities in a very controlled environment that create oxygen infusement to the brain while at the same time still being asymptomatic and not having any reoccurrences of the concussive symptoms, they want that to occur because they feel like that returns the neurological structure to its proper balance.
Okay, Mark, this is William. 2-part question. One, if you were Luke Keuckly right now, would you continue playing? And if you had a young child now, knowing what you know about football and how much bigger and faster and stronger the kids and stuff are now, would you let them play?
Yeah, a little hard to hear you, but I thought that you said, what would I do if I were Luke Keuckly? And of course I'm not. And I don't believe he's married. I don't really know much about his personal life. I had a wife and a young child when I began to go through the situation in Buffalo, and my wife was saying, look, I know you love the game and you want to continue to play, but if you're going to continue to suffer these concussive episodes and there's the potential for some long-term depreciation of your health, I do not want you to play anymore. And I suggest he has certainly family members or siblings or parents or good friends around the game, and certainly people in the Panthers organization that say, look, we want you to leave the game healthy. We don't want you to leave the game in a situation where you're going to have some long-term problems from a health perspective. So, I mean, he's got to find a way, I think, to find the right circumstances and the right equipment and the right, I mean, he seems like he tackles with his shoulder. I mean, I've seen him on film and studied him and watched them in regards to situations when the Bills were playing the Panthers. And so he tackles the right way and he does everything right, but sometimes it's just unavoidable that you get a knee or an elbow to the head, or sometimes there's helmet-to-helmet contact. He cannot avoid it completely, but he's got to find a way to provide himself some additional protection so that he doesn't continue to have these concussive episodes. Because if he does, he's really got to think long and hard about his long-term health prognosis, and I think he needs to make a collaborative decision with people that he trusts in the medical profession, and I'm sure there's a number of those around the Panthers organization that can give him some valuable advice.
Well, Mark, we hope that you could stay through a very short break, as we want to get your thoughts on NASCAR and the NFL from the playing field standpoint right now. So stick around, Mark. This is Mark Kelso from the Buffalo Bills. For John Tobias, William Wilson, this is Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. John Tobias, William Wilson, I'm Kevin Casey, and on our special guest line we have from the Buffalo Bills and JTG Doherty Racing, Mark Kelso. And William, you had an interesting question that we talked about in the break.
Yeah, I won a championship with Ultra Motorsports, and I talked to some of my football buddies, and I tell them a NASCAR championship is far and away much harder to win than a Super Bowl or win an NFL championship. What's your thoughts, given that you played football and you're involved in NASCAR?
Well, I haven't won either, so I don't know if I'm a credible authority to
Well, JTG's going to win one. I know it, man. Tad, Jody, and Jim Miller and all my boys, they're going to get JTG.
Kevin, let him answer the question.
That's correct, and owners don't come any better than Tad and Jody Geschichter and Brad Doherty and that group, the ownership group that we have. But there's some element of truth to that, certainly. It's NASCAR. There are so many similarities between NASCAR and NASCAR race shop and an NFL locker room, but there are also some dissimilarities. I mean, I kind of equate it like this, and I'll give you my analogy. So when I got involved in racing, I come at it actually from a football perspective. So the guys in the shop are like the offensive coaches and the offensive players, because they prepare a game plan and then they provide the opportunity based on the way they build the car for the group on the field to execute the game plan. But when you get to the field, to the racetrack, things are going to happen at the racetrack. The barometric pressure is going to be different. The weather conditions are going to be different. The heat and with the heat and humidity, they're going to be different. Things don't react the way you thought they were going to act when you were in the engineering room. So now you got the road crew, which is like the defensive unit. They've got to adjust to all the anomalies that happen during the game or during the race. And then you got the pit crew that everything they do is critical, but no one really pays attention until they screw up. And then, then they're terrible people and wow, you make that mistake. But if they don't change those tires quickly and they don't provide opportunities to put enough gas in the car or make the proper adjustments when you're going through the race, or they go the wrong way, it's a critical mistake. So there are so many similarities, the way the team is put together, and I think the way, when you talk about organizational excellence, I think you can say if you're a NASCAR team or an NFL team, that those principles of organizational excellence still apply. I mean, you still need to have extreme ownership in your department. You need to lead up and down the chain of command. You have to have extreme discipline, whether it's a football team or a race team, about the way you do things, because that discipline affords you the opportunity to react to situations that you didn't prepare for, because you prepared for so many different situations. And then you've got a lot of people. You got a lot of guys on both teams and gals as well, that you need to make sure you just have the right chemistry and the right cadence together, so that you're working seamlessly alongside one another to put the best product on the racetrack or on the field. So, I mean, that's kind of why I enjoy it so much, because there are so many similarities. In football, it's a game of inches. In NASCAR, it's a game of 1/16 of an inch, and those things can make a big difference in those respective athletic arenas.
One thing I want to ask you is that I know that you're former Buffalo Bills. What do you think about the Bills this year, like under the Sean McDermott regime compared to the Rex Ryan regime?
Yeah, and I have the opportunity to see them every week when I broadcast games, and they are a much more disciplined team than they were under Rex Ryan. I mean, I had a great relationship with Coach Ryan, and I think he did a lot of positive things. But I think one of the things that they did that did not play in their favor during Coach Ryan's tenure in Buffalo is they tried to develop a scheme to attack or defend a particular opponent it seemed like on a weekly basis. So there were little nuances to the ways they wanted to run defense and the things they wanted to do to an upcoming opponent. And I don't think there was any one thing that they did extremely well and extremely consistently. And I think with this Coach McDermott, Coach Team, and Coach Frazier, who's the defensive coordinator of this unit, they have a couple things and they can do very well. They're going to make teams take 12 or 13 plays. If they're going to score points, it's going to take them that many plays, and they're going to have to put together some really long drives. They're going to be able to rush the passer and keep it a little bit simpler so that they can put pressure on it, on the passer, and force that ball to be out in 2.5 seconds. They have linebackers, I think, that are and while they played well under Coach Ryan, I think they understand leverage control a little bit better now, and I think they understand angle of entry a little better, so that they are not having to deal with those offensive linemen all the time, but they can take a much better angle and get themselves to the ball carrier and make that play. So that, from a defensive perspective, things are a little bit different, playing a lot more zone than they played under Coach Ryan, where they played a heavy dose of man coverage, and guys really understanding where they need to be, and they've been really consistent. They've turned the ball over at a great clip. I think they're +8 going into this week's game here against Tampa Bay, and then on the offensive side of the ball, it's a little bit of a different scheme than they ran last year under Anthony Lynn, who ultimately became the head coach and was the offensive coordinator prior to that. And they ran a little bit more a stretch game, and they got out on the edge a little bit more. Now they're running a little bit more of that inside zone play, which every team in the league runs with Coach Dennison. And then there's been some change at the offensive line, so they've had a little bit of difficulty finding their running game this year. I think they found it against Atlanta, but then against Cincinnati it went away again, and I'm hoping the bye week will provide them some opportunities to have some real running success here when they play Tampa Bay, because that's really critical, I think, to Tyrod Taylor's success. He's great in the bootleg, he's great in the play action pass game, and when he has a healthy running game, he can be a really, really quality quarterback and put a lot of points on the board. But they're going to need that running game to be able to control the clock and to be able to afford that play action passing game on the back end.
What do you think about, can Buffalo make the playoffs? And what about, you live here in the greater Charlotte area, what about Carolina? Can maybe Buffalo and Carolina make the playoffs?
Yeah, boy, I think it's premature to even talk about it. I mean, I think the Bills, can they win 10 games? Based on how they've been playing to this point in the season, I think they could. But the schedule gets even more difficult here after the bye week. So if you don't win 10 games, I don't know that you're going to have an opportunity. But as we've seen, I mean, there have been plenty of upsets to this point in the season already. There's no undefeated team in the league. They've got a veteran team, but they don't have a team that's played together for any length of time. So that's the thing that concerns me about the Bills. And if they can keep playing at the level defensively they are, and they can find a running game, then I could see them sneaking into the playoffs here as a wild card team. But I don't see them winning the division at the moment. But I've been wrong before, and if the running game really comes together and they get some guys back healthy, particularly Charles Clay and Jordan Matthews may be available this week. I don't know. Those guys get back, they'll have an opportunity. The Panthers, on the other hand, have a lot of veteran leadership, have been deep in the playoffs before and been to the Super Bowl. So if they play to their level of capability, and Cam seems like he's been trying to stay in the pocket a lot more and find those receivers. What a great collection of offensive talent. And then on the defensive side of the ball, if they lose Luke for any appreciable time, it's going to be, I think it's going to make it very difficult on that defense. But with him playing, they do have an outstanding defensive unit as well. So I think they'd have an opportunity to get themselves back to the postseason. So you just have to see how it unfolds. I mean, if they play well and they execute they execute well. Everybody says to me, well, what's this team run this week when we're analyzing the game? And I said every team in the league runs the G lead, the FG lead, the stretch play, the inside stretch, the outside stretch, the inside zone, the outside zone. It's just in what doses they run it and how efficient they are executing it. And the teams that execute it more efficiently are the teams that are winning, and the teams that turn the ball over and don't execute efficiently are the teams that are finding themselves in the loss column every week.
What about the NASCAR championship? Who's going to win the Cup title, Mark? Who do you think there?
Well, I'll tell you what, the 78 team has been unbelievable all year, and I like some of these young guys too. I mean, I like to see our teams get Chris Buescher and A.J. Allmendinger and get back into the top 25, which we're 25th and 26th now. So hopefully we can push ourselves into that low 20s spot. But Martin Truex has been fantastic, and I like the young ambassadors of this sport. I think there's some really good guys, and Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott and those guys. But I mean, you can't ever count out those guys. I mean, Jimmy's been unbelievable through the course of his career. Can't count him out. Kyle has won a number of races this year, and they always seem to have a lot of speed as well. But I mean, if you're asking me to lay down some money, and I'm not laying down very much, maybe a couple dollars.
William's got plenty of money. He's going to lay it down.
I'm going to go with
negative.
Well, I'll go with Martin. He's at the top of the standings right now, and does not seem to be slowing down. And we have a couple guys here from JTG that work on that team now. So I like that. I like that fact as well, that we have some guys that we know are really good craftsmen who work on the 78 team as well. So, hopefully, if I have to pull somebody other than A.J. Allmendinger and Chris Buescher, I think that's who I'm pulling for.
Well, you guys are right up on Highway 49 or University City Boulevard. If you're leaving the university, you're very close. I drive by your shop every morning on my way to the radio station. My good friend Gib Miller works there. I love your team. I think AJ and Will, what do you think? I like Chris Buescher. AJ could win any road race, and he looks good at Martinsville. And I think Chris is a good oval guy, up-and-coming guy. I really like what JTG is doing, and I'd like to see them in the chase next year. And of course, I know Mark wants to see him in the chase as well.
Yeah, I think Chris gives him a much better chance of making the chase than AJ, just because Chris is really a really good oval guy. AJ is a great road course guy, but Chris is a really good, consistent oval guy. And I'd love to see him. I think Chris gives him a better chance than AJ, even though I like both of them.
Well, Mark, what do you think next year? More focus on the overall operation. You're in the shop every day. You guys got the off season coming up after the playoffs. What's going to be the focus next year of JTG Doherty Racing?
Yeah, trying to use collective intelligence and make this program even better than it is. I mean, we do. I think we have a great network of sponsor partners that we deal with, and Kroger and Scott's Paper Towels and Kingsford and Bush's and all of our great sponsors that we've had over the years.
The cars look great on the track every week. I can tell you that.
Yeah, they do, and those guys do. Gib and Todd up front do a great job. The marketing department. We're a little different in the fact that we kind of run all the marketing programs around the car as well, as opposed to some other teams that may run the race car, but then whoever their sponsor is might bring in a marketing team to help run programs around the race car. So we kind of do it from top to bottom, which is a really unique thing, I think, in the sport. And Ted's expertise is marketing. I don't think they come any better than Ted and Jody when it comes to being able to take the NASCAR operation and provide visibility and then close the sale with the consumer the way that Ted and Jody do. So I mean, there's a lot of high expectations, certainly, and we'll make some improvements. Some things I'm not even able to tell you yet, but I'm sure you'll find them out on J-Ski or something in the coming weeks. But we're going to have some fast cars, and we got some drivers I think that we really have confidence in, and I think AJ, having Chris here makes AJ better, because Chris has such a great growth mindset, so he's learning the entire race, and I think that's a really healthy component of a race car driver, particularly. I mean, I break it into quarters. I mean, what else would I do, right? So you don't really have to have the car run into its optimal performance until that fourth quarter, but then you better have figured it out by that time and give yourself an opportunity to get in the top 5 and then hopefully win the race. So I'm excited about next year, and but not giving up yet on this year to make some big gains here in the next few weeks.
Well, maybe we can get William Wilson clothing on the hood of Chris Buescher's car next year, and maybe Will can go to the shop and work with the jack. You were the jack guy, right?
Yeah, I was the jack man.
All right, so you got
come on.
Up. Hey, there's the invite.
Yeah, I'd love to come by.
He's not the one that said he had plenty of money. If you got plenty of money, you can be on the car.
Right. We'll put William Wilson clothing on the 37 next year, and you can be the celebrity jackman in practice, but not during the race. A little rusty, maybe.
Hey, I went out to the pit crew combine for the driver diversity. I still got my skills. Don't sleep on the old man.
You need a jack guy, for either AJ or Chris. We got William Wilson.
You got to write a big check for me now, though, because I'm a little older. You got to write a big check for me. But I'd love to stop by the shop, Mark, and just come check out your facility.
Yeah, just let me know. Let me know. Give a call, and we'd be happy to show you guys around.
All right, well, thanks to Mark Kelso, former Buffalo Bill, and the general manager of JTG Doherty Racing, for coming by Talking About Sports. We're coming right back for more Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. William Wilson, John Tobias, and JT. A lot of upsets last week. Reggie Walker called it. He said, don't worry that there's no matchups between top 25 teams. He said, I would expect maybe 4 upsets, and there were actually more. One of them was Clemson and Syracuse. Did you see that coming? I do like Clemson's coaching staff and their quarterback.
I don't think anyone saw that coming, but you know what? I'm glad that you brought that up about the quarterback with Kelly Bryant. At the end of the day, and you probably want to co-sign with me, at the end of the day, it is all about like attrition and injuries. It could take like one injury, especially the quarterback, that can really turn your season around. Whether you're Aaron Rodgers, look what happened to him. Brett Huntley, we remember him from UCLA. He's a serviceable quarterback, but he's not Aaron Rodgers. Look what happened to DeAndre Francois for Florida State. They're not the same.
Not even close.
Yeah, not the same. So it all depends on attrition and keeping your quarterback healthy, because if you don't keep your quarterback healthy, you can be screwed.
I think Will's hoping for the head coach to be injured at Arkansas, but
I am praying. Praying when we do extra tithing, we get a new head coach.
And I will say this though, a good friend of mine, Aaron Taylor, who I work with, he predicts.
Notre Dame, Aaron
yes,
Taylor?
He predicts that Dino Babers would be one of the first people to be called in terms of like any like opening like head coaching positions. Could be Arkansas, could be Tennessee. You never know.
I mean, I think Tennessee would be. I think Tennessee.
True.
I think they need to hold off a little bit more. I mean, they're running through coaches. Their burn rate. You keep burning through coaches that quick, those really top-notch coaches aren't even going to want to come to your program, because they know it takes some time.
Right.
Bielema's has been there 5 years.
Right. True. This is true.
And I think I heard our good friend, our distinguished colleague, Jeff Taylor, mentioned that I think he said he was going to go out on a limb with a bold prediction. Let's see if we can recap Jeff Taylor's bold prediction.
I'll make a bold prediction right now. I think they're locked in with what they're doing. That Dabo's got them rolling. They're focused.
You're really going out on a limb.
I don't think they lose another game. I think they win the national championship, and I don't think they lose another game.
I'll go out on a limb.
That's going out on a limb.
Is that a limb? I mean, I don't know if that's really a limb.
I'll go out on a limb.
That's a twig right there.
With this Friday night game. The Clemson Tigers will be over 9 sacks in this ball game.
And over 60 points.
Dino Babers, the head coach at Syracuse, came out earlier this week and said the defensive line is, quote, OMG. And the Syracuse offensive line is TRASH. It's going to get ugly on Friday night.
A lot of confidence from the coach, huh? All right, well, we just heard Jeff Taylor's bold prediction, and as they'd say on the commercials, not exactly. So something happened on the way to the final gun between, I think the Syracuse offense and defense had something to do with it. And I want to hear what the coaching staff, and I really like this coaching staff that they have at Syracuse. Let's see how they reacted to the upset of Clemson.
The win is big. It's a national win. It's really the timing. When you play on a Friday night, everyone sees you. I mean, if we were playing on Saturday, we'd have been sitting there Friday night watching that game with our team, or watching the game in different individual rooms, getting ready for a meeting somewhere. Everyone sees you. So it's a big moment, you know. As the millennials would say, that's a trending moment. Everyone's watching, the social media is buzzing, everybody knows what's going on. It's big.
Will, North Carolina, I guess if you got money, you can maybe escape the NCAA punishment. That's what some people are saying.
Oh,
saying
yeah.
that maybe Jack Tunney, Stanley Blackburn, Bob Geigel, and Jim Crockett were on the governing board of the NCAA. By the way, those are wrestling
terms,
commissioners.
Yeah.
Surprise.
North Carolina seemingly got off. It avoided some. I thought they were going to get some harsh penalties, maybe even some bowl restrictions. But North Carolina is seemingly getting off. Will, what do you think about that?
What I don't understand about is their rationale. Their whole thing is not whether or not they were cheating or not. It seems to be the fact that the access to the cheating classes was available to everyone. So it wasn't a benefit just for the students.
So now, if the students were smarter, they could have gotten easy classes too, right?
Well, I mean, there were some students that took it. It's been around 20 years. They said these classes have been around for 20 years doing this. Over 3,000 students have taken this class.
They didn't have that at VCU, I can tell you.
No, we didn't have it at Arkansas either. But here's what amazes me is that, you tell kids, I remember being a child, if I did something, I said, well, so-and-so did it. They're like, well, you don't worry about it. If they jumped off a cliff, are you going to jump off a cliff? That's what I was always told as a kid. So here the rationale is, okay, yes, you did it, but so did the students could do it too. The non-athletic students could do it too. So we're not going to punish you because this was available to the non-athletes. That's the most asinine, ridiculously hat-handed nonsense I think I've ever heard from what's supposed to be an institution of a managing body of an institution of higher learning. This is ridiculous at a political level.
Don't you hate it when William beats around the bush? He never tells us what he thinks.
Yeah, just tell us how you really feel next time, Will.
Well, I can tell you right now, Roy Williams had a different take on the whole situation.
Of course he did.
Happy that it was over with, and did a lot of thinking about what's happened the last. I've seen somebody say 7 years and 7 days or whatever. It made no difference. It was 4.5, 5 years, but did a lot of thinking about what had gone on during that time period. I think what we have to find is a better model and do a better job of following the rules. I think we've got 1 million rules, and some of them we waste too much time on, but cut those back and follow those closely, and hopefully everyone else will do. But we haven't found the perfect model, so anybody that says they've got an answer, they must be a lot smarter than everybody's been for over 100 years.
Well, obviously, Coach Williams saw it a little differently. He is the coach of the reigning national champions, and I think they have a good shot of maybe repeating, although Duke looks pretty strong. JT, I know it's kind of early. We haven't even started practice, or maybe we have.
So how do they look strong?
I'm just saying they look strong every year. I'm just looking at their rosters. These guys they don't rebuild, they reload. It's just like they don't even have to recruit. They just say, we'll take you and we'll take you, and you can come.
In the words of the great philosopher Herman
Nostradamus.
Hey. Be nice. We play to win the game. At the end of the day, no one won a championship on paper and on chalkboards. You got to play. Otherwise, Clemson would still be undefeated.
This is true.
So they threw the book at Louisville. Well, they're getting maybe they're going to throw the administration threw the book at Coach Pitino and the athletic director, maybe even people up higher up than that. JT, what do you think of the situation with Louisville?
That's a good segue from UNC to Louisville. The one thing I want to say is this, and Louisville maybe can take a note from this. UNC, with the academic scandal, they spent $18 million in legal fees, $18 million, and it was worth every single penny. every single penny. So maybe Louisville can take a page of that to prevent them from getting on the death penalty.
Maybe they should get UNC's lawyers.
Maybe they should, and kick out $18 million worth of coin. In terms of the Louisville situation, I'm not sure if you guys heard the Patino interview last night with Jay Billis. And the thing about it is, let's say if he says that I had no knowledge, I still think that you should be fired just because of not even knowing. This is different. You have like 15 players that you have to worry about, as opposed to like if you're like a college football coach to where you
like
have
Jim Tressel.
Like exactly, to where you have like 80, 90 players. Like you only have 15, and then you have assistants just like you do in college football to monitor that. So for him not to have like any knowledge, I would fire him just in terms of just being simply like incompetent. Is he a great coach? Of course he is. He's in the Hall of Fame. But in terms of him not knowing, that should not cause him to be left off the hook. Just like the stripper thing, I didn't know anything about that. I mean, you only have one.
VCU either.
Now, no, you only have like one get out of jail free card. He used that. He used that.
I mean, what's wrong?
Scrippers.
I don't have a problem with it. We entertain recruits, but man, we didn't have any budget for that.
But I think the thing to it though, Louisville's a football school now. Petrino has them a football school. North Carolina cannot afford. If it would have cost them $18 billion, they would have needed to pay it because they're not a football school. They're a basketball school. Their football program gets a little props here and there if you live on the East Coast and in one of 3 states. No one in Arkansas cares about North Carolina's football program or anywhere west of North Carolina. Their basketball program is relevant. They live and breathe. Their whole identity, their whole brand for University of North Carolina is their basketball program. They could not spend enough money to maintain the integrity because that school, as strong and as storied and as historic as that school is, it cannot afford to have their basketball program go under. They are done.
What is Arkansas? I mean, Nolan Richardson, they were a basketball school back then.
No, we've always been a football school. We appreciate the championship.
40 minutes of hell.
40 minutes of hell. You can give us, if you give us a choice. Now, I just love my Razorbacks.
The volleyball program, from what I understood.
Yeah, but hey, say what you want. We were number 3 under him. But here's what I know is, and I think most Razorbacks will go along with this. If you give us a chance to 4 basketball championships or 2 football championships, we'll take the footballs all day long. Just like when Florida with Urban Meyer, Bobby, what's his name? They won the basketball. Phil. What's his name? What was his name? The coach, the Florida's basketball team. Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan.
Yeah.
With the Thunder now.
Thunder.
When he was winning a basketball championship with Florida, that's nice and that's cute. Urban Meyer winning football championships is what mattered to University of Florida. In SEC, football matters. Basketball just gives us something to do while our football players recover from the season.
I think Coach Bielema was hungry for a title.
Bielema was just hungry in general.
All right.
He could eat the road up on his way out of Arkansas.
Should have eaten up that road the motorcycle was on with the volleyball player, but
different coach.
There you go. All right, we got more discussion. We got Panthers and Hornets to talk about. William Wilson, John Tobias, Kevin Casey. This is Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
We're talking about sports on
We're talking about sports at ADS. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports. Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports. We've got, what are we doing over here, man? You unplugging stuff going on?
I know, man.
We got
definitely not an audio guy.
That's my fault.
No one's fan
It's my fault.
More than Jim McKay and now John Tobias. You got Old Dominion in Western Kentucky on, what's that, Friday night?
Tomorrow.
Friday night. And then you're back in San Diego, your new hometown. You got San Diego State again?
Yes, one of the nicest cities in the continental U.S. Maybe the nicest.
What about the Intercontinental? I used to like the Intercontinental title.
Tito Santana.
Right, Ariba. Now we got road tripping, and we got to have some. I want you to file a report, a road tripping.
Well, I told Kev I forgot last week, but I'm gonna hook him up, the producer of the show.
Know, Mike Pacheco went to Louisville and was working with the Louisville-Boston College game with our good friend John Meter-Perrell. Let's see what Pacheco had in store for us.
It's a busy weekend here in Louisville. Not only BC Louisville playing on Saturday, but they have the Ironman Triathlon going in and the Susan G. Komen Walk is also going on here in Louisville. Behind me, you can see Louisville Slugger Park, and I am right now in Kentuckiana because I am right in between Kentucky and Indiana. I'm somewhere on the border. I don't think they have an official demarcation, but that right behind me is the Ohio River.
All right, well, JT, you saw the template. I'm going to see what I can do at Duke Pittsburgh, the game I've got this weekend. So,
okay,
good game.
Very good.
You'll have definitely a better visuals out in San Diego than I will at Wallace Wade Stadium. But also we got the Charlotte Hornets were involved. They didn't look so good against Detroit, but the Hawks, which I don't think are a very good team.
Right.
What did you? What's your takeaway from the Hornets and the Pistons, and what do you see coming up for the Hornets?
A couple of things. I mean, I think that it's promising as the season progresses, but right now they don't have any wing defenders. I mean, Batum is out for several weeks with the elbow issue. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist has been out for a while for personal reasons, and they won't state in terms of like what those personal reasons
that's
are.
really weird.
I know, but I guess the operative word is, personal reasons. And but I tell you what, though, Dwight Howard started out really well last night. 10 points, 15 rebounds, and 2 blocks. His inside presence in terms of being a great defensive interior player really did speak volumes, because I did the research in terms of all of Detroit's post players. They were combined 5 for 18, like they're post players. So you would think that your field goal percentage would be higher because you'd be closer, to the basket. And I think that he contributed a lot to that. The last thing also that kind of struck me is that they did not start Malik Monk, their lottery pick, and instead they...
He was tired from all the squirrel hunting.
Your guy from Arkansas, right. They did not start Malik Monk, which was surprising, and instead they started the other rookie from Florida State, Dwayne Bacon. I'm kind of confused by that. Maybe it's because he's taller.
He's been sizzling in practice.
Yeah, 6'7" over 6'3", could be. But
can't teach those 4 inches.
I know, but I do think that Malik Monk is a ball, and I think that he's going to have a pretty productive year as the season progresses.
Basketball is squirrel hunting. We're going to be the Hornets are going to be all right.
You got to talk to Will about that.
Well, I don't know.
They got to gel. I don't know if they gel. Dwight Howard is going to be key. If he can stay healthy, maintain an inside presence in the paint throughout the season, because he's giving this team an identity, people are not going to be going and just punk them out in the middle like they've been able to do.
Right.
And that can free some things up. And when Batum gets back, we're going to need, hopefully Monk can step in and fill that void that Batum is left behind Batum. And then when Batum comes back, now you got Kemba, Batum, and Malik. Man, that could just be strong. Right. That give you some depth, and it give you a smaller, faster offense and defense you can run with. So if they can gel, I think the Hornets have a chance to make it that 7 or 8 spot.
I agree.
Do you think, you mentioned Dwight Howard, is it the team feels looser knowing that, hey, we can play tighter on the perimeter because we got Dwight Howard behind us? They're going to erase any mistakes.
Well, Will just said it. I mean, I think now with Dwight, I don't think that they're going to be punked anymore like in the post, because, once again, in Detroit, I mean, the game last night.
Cody Zeller plays.
Yeah, their post players were combined 5 for 18. So, and I think that he played like a big part of it. He had 15 rebounds. He had a double-double. So I definitely think that can still continue as long as he stays healthy.
You're saying right now, Hornets are
absolutely. I may sound like a homer, but no, I'm going to going to stand on that. No doubt about it.
I'm a Bulls fan, so I'm saying it too.
Not gonna make
you guys say Cleveland, Boston, the Hornets. Who's your fourth team? Washington?
Yeah.
All right. They're not the Bullets anymore. Yeah. They're the Wizards. But John Wall seems to be getting it done. Yeah. All right. World Be Free on Twitter comes into and by the way, you can get up with us. We Talkin' Sports 1 on Twitter. So we have a question for NBA playoff teams. For college football playoff teams.
As much as I hate to say
Arkansas, by the way.
As much as I hate to say it because I detest them, Alabama.
Oh, that's going out on a limb.
I didn't say I was going on a limb. You just asked me who were 4 college pro teams.
Give me 4.
Yeah, my mom raised ugly kids, not stupid ones. Alabama will be there. I think Clemson will bounce back. They'll be there. I can't count out Louisville.
I can.
I don't know if I want to count them out yet.
Not any good.
Yeah.
You said go on a limb. Now I'm going on a limb.
Yeah, you do.
What about the team that beat Arkansas, TCU?
No. I don't think it's scheduled to be strong.
They're number 4, I believe.
Yeah, but I don't think. But I think as the season progresses, the strength of schedule, things like this are going to factor in.
I think you want to go with the number 2 team in the country currently right now, which is Penn State. They're doing really well.
Appreciate
that could be.
Yeah. Reggie Walker. They play Michigan.
Give me 4, JT.
We're not to steal Will's thunder, but Alabama, Clemson, even though they lost, they control their own destiny. Their big game is November.
The ACC, right? Is that enough?
Their big game is November the 4th. It's at NC State.
Right.
I'm not saying Florida State. I think the NC State. Congratulations, NC State. That's going to be a bigger test. So I would say Alabama, Clemson, Penn State, and there's always like a dark horse team,
right?
That comes from nowhere. I would go Pac-12. I may say like another Big Ten team like Ohio State.
Our man James King here from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. He's a big Bucky Badger fan. He loves the undefeated Wisconsin Badgers. Nobody's talking about them. I mean, I figured NC State Clemson's a big enough game even you could show up for. Maybe the big time people would show up. So, what about Alabama, Penn State, Georgia, Wisconsin? There's a lot of teams involved. All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of Talking About Sports for Kevin Tolbert, who still hasn't seen the rheumatologist, Dr. Gordon Lamb at Northeast Rheumatology, because his gout is still flaring up, wearing a sandal with his, you guys see that down there? He's got a sandal with his.
Just put all his personal business out there, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, go to the doctor, see the gout.
Join us next week. We have a new host.
A day, man. It's like taking 1 a day plus vitamins, although with Centrum for guys over 50. All right, for John Tobias, William Wilson, I'm Kevin Casey at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Come see us. So long for now.
We'll have a new host next week.